Welcome to my windowsill. Here are a collection of plants I've been taking care of for the past 6 years. Succulents and cacti need bright light, so I have a south-facing window with the blinds partly up. Some of the tools we'll need are a watering can with a thin spout and a spray bottle. For water, either use hard water from the tap that's been sitting out overnight or rainwater. Here I'm actually using melted snow. I always water in the morning to allow the sun to dry up any excess water from the soil. Also keep a cloth handy for any spills. This is the first succulent that I got 6 years ago. It's a burro's tail or Sedum Morganianum. See how it's bending over? These plants are usually found in hanging baskets, so they like to droop over the sides. This one's grown quite a bit since then. When it's not getting enough sunlight, this plant will reach for the sun and become leggy, meaning that you can see a lot of the stem. When this happens, I cut off the top and take the bottom leaves for propagating. Each leaf that I gently twist off will become a plant of its own. The top will callus, meaning letting the stem that's cut off dry, and then sprout new roots when you plant it in a fresh pot of soil. I rotate the pot while angling the spout of the watering can against the rim of the pot towards the soil. Since this plant is so tall, I like to lean it against the corner of the windowsill to provide additional support. Here are the 2-year-old baby plants. You can still see the mother leaf, that is the larger leaf lying horizontally, which provides nutrients as this plant grows. Usually it withers away, but it has stayed alive and well. These are the Echeveria Lilacinas, also known as ghost Echeverias. Their lilac blue-gray leaves make them my favorite succulent. Growing from its main leaf to a plant of its own, this propagation process took around 2 years as well. And not all leaves turn into plants. A lot of them failed and withered away before being able to support a new plant. These are bunny cacti, also known as Opuntia Microdasys. I just put a little bit of water in this shallow dish for them to have enough for their roots. Needing indirect light, this Pilea is set off to the side and watered twice a week. Each pot has its own tray to catch the water that flows through the drainage hole. I like to water until I can see some of it coming out. As well, I like to rotate the plant so that it grows symmetrically. This is because they usually like to stretch towards the sun. You can see the bunny cacti in the far right. It even looks like a bunny with the 2 ears poking up on the top. Next to it in the blue elephant pot, we have the Pachyphytum Compactum. They have spiky blue-gray leaves with maroon tips. Because of its geometric shape, this plant is also called Little Jewel. It's very important to allow the water to drain out from the bottom, because if the pot does not have a drainage hole, then the water gets stuck in the roots, and this causes root rot. Some people like to water their plants over a tub or sink to avoid making a mess, like I did here. Just like the burro's tail, the little jewel also likes to get leggy, so if it doesn't have enough sunlight, it stretches out and shows a lot of its stem. This is what the plant looked like after I cut off the top and propagated the rest of its leaves. Since the top is currently in the process of growing new roots, the leaves are a little dehydrated because the roots are the main system in which the water can travel into the leaves. Oh no, don't cry, elephant. I water weekly in the summers and bi-weekly in the winters. If in doubt, underwater. This simulates a drought and succulents can live through them. If you see any withering leaves at the base of the plant, don't worry, this is completely natural. Which brings us to the next part, pruning. So I like to do this maybe once every month. You just check the bottom of the plant, lift up the base leaves, and pluck out any leaves that are withering, shriveling, or just drying out. The plant that I'm pruning right now is my favorite, the Echeveria Lilacina. The baby plants previously seen in this video were from this plant. I propagated them by twisting off the base leaves and placing them on top of a shallow dish of soil. However, leaves that are withered are not fit for propagation, so these I'll just throw away. Here's the Echeveria Agavoides, also known as lipstick Echeveria or molded wax agave. It's stemless, so it doesn't stretch towards the sun and become leggy. It's also got lime green leaves and red tips. Next up, we have the Echeveria Peacockii, also known as the Peacock Echeveria. It's similar to the other one because it's also got blue-gray powdery leaves. Since this pot does not have drainage holes, I use an inner pot that does in order to dump the excess water out and prevent the roots from sitting in water. It's leaning slightly to reach for the sun. As well, the base of the plant is mostly stem because of the withered leaves, including this one, which I'll pluck off. As an optional step, I could cut off the stem and plant it again in order to have a short and tight rosette. Removing any dying leaves allows the plant to focus on growing new leaves. Things can get a little messy, so I got a lot of soil on this plant. What I do is take a small brush and just dust off any soil or even any dust from being on the windowsill for too long. Things got a little messy, so I'm just taking a damp cloth and wiping off the soil. Here you can see a shallow dish that I use for propagating. And I also like to clean off the trays once in a while because they can get quite dirty from the water and the soil draining out. Our last topic is propagation. I've mentioned this throughout the video, but here is a closer look at the steps required to make new plants from your original plant. The first step in propagation is to twist off a leaf from the bottom of a plant, like this one. Next, I lay the leaf on dry soil and wait for the part where the leaf met the stem of the mother plant to callus over. After growing roots, the leaves can now absorb water, so I start spraying them every morning. Be patient with this process, and before you know it, you'll have your own family of plants to take care of.